This is Mike Arrington. I'm here with Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer. Hello, Steve.
Hey, how you doing?
It's been a year since I had a chance to sit down with you. You're back in Silicon Valley today. What brings you here?
Well, we do an annual event where we bring together venture capitalists and try to make sure they understand where we're going, we understand where they're going, because there's going to be opportunities for us to partner with their portfolio companies, try to get their portfolio companies to build on and alongside of things that we do. There'll be chances for acquisition. And we do that once a year, and we happen to be doing that today. And I'm probably down in the Valley 7 times a year, but this is sort of more of a Valley day because we're with the VC community.
The last time you were in the Valley was that when you did the Yahoo deal?
Last time I was down here probably was the announcement of the Yahoo deal. I've had kind of a quiet 2 months of travel since I was down here the end of July for that.
I have a couple questions to you about that, but we can hit those later. I want to talk, the first thing is I'm sort of excited. Like, you guys have a lot of new product initiatives. I think some are big ideas, big new businesses, possibly some are maybe what you call an enabler or something like that. But maybe in big buckets, we've got Bing is out, we've got Windows 7 coming out, Azure is, I think you guys have already said, by the end of the year.
By the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Mesh is there, Project Natal, and others. How do you feel about sort of big buckets and all these products, your babies?
Well, I think, it's good to have a year where you got a lot of stuff that you can kind of be excited about if you lead a company like ours. And I think we have a lot of very exciting products for the consumer and, frankly, for the enterprise customer, although that tends to get a little less press attention, I would say. But it's a fun year. It also is a year then where you can say it's a good year to go build business, and it's a good year to lay the seeds for the next generation of businesses that can be good. And whether it's what we're trying to do with Bing or what we're trying to do with Natal, the next 12 months is shaping up very promising.
One of the big themes you talk about is something I think you call it 3 screens in the cloud. And I'd love if you could dive a little bit into what that means from a business standpoint, but also from a user and what they're going to get out of this when it finally comes together.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I like the little phrase 3 screens in the cloud is just that it's true and it's what we started talking about at CES, but I kind of like the alliteration with 3 men and a baby. Every time I say it, I think 3 screens in the cloud, 3 men and a baby, if you remember the movie. But I think what it really refers to is a fundamental shift in the sort of computing paradigm. And we used to talk about mainframe computer, mini computer, PC computing, client-server computing, graphical computing, the internet. I think this notion of 3 screens in a cloud, multiple devices that are all important, the cloud not just as a point of delivery of individual applications, but really as a new platform, a scale-out, very manageable platform that has services that span, sort of security contexts. I think it's a big deal. You lay natural user interface technologies on there, and then you start revitalizing the UI platform, which you're seeing on phones and TVs. Yeah. People want more than just what's called classical graphical user interface: touch, voice, camera, gestures, all of that stuff. Whether it's Natal or the touch stuff in iPhone or Windows 7 or whatever it is, it is the next big generational shift in the computing platform, and people are going to want applications, I'll call them that, or services, depending on whether you like old-fashioned words or new words, but they're going to want things that service them across those environments. So, when I'm away and just have my phone with me, I still may want to check in on the action in my favorite Xbox competition, or I may want to play games with somebody who's in a different environment. We're sitting watching television and we want to share with somebody who's not physically present. We want that to work to somebody who might be a family member who's on their PC in a hotel room traveling tonight. So you got to think about it as kind of one integrated computing infrastructure. Now, whether it'll all come from one company and what are the standards and what is the points of proprietary differentiation, all of that's going to get kind of played off. In our own case, we're going to try to share technologies so that we get kind of synergy from a developer's perspective. Windows in the phone, Windows PCs controlling TVs, the Windows PC, of course, itself, Windows Azure in the cloud. So we have a lot of work that's trying to share technology, but obviously you don't want exactly the same experience on a little screen and a very big screen and a mid-sized screen.
Okay. Does it work? You talked about Azure in the cloud, but does it work if somebody's using, say, Amazon Web Services or something like that. Although we're talking more about the developer side now, but you plan to interoperate as much as possible?
As much as possible implies that infinite complexity is a good thing.
Yeah.
Of course, it's unreasonable to say that you're going to completely support only your own 3 screens and only your own cloud.
Yeah.
I wish that it were true.
Yeah.
We have to make our screens and our cloud first and best. But clearly there are going to be people, for example, who don't want to be in the cloud, that want to be on premise, that for whatever set of crazy reasons don't want to be on Windows, might want to be on Linux, for gosh sakes. So,
Crazy, yeah.
we're going to, for me, I'm allowed to say it. But we're going to, and we need to interoperate, but we do need to be first and best in support and in integration of our own platforms.
Okay, fair enough. Search. Congratulations, Bing is some of the major services are saying Bing has now achieved 10% market share, up actually quite a big percent, over 8.5. I mean that's a big percentage
big jump.
Yeah. And it seems to be pretty quick, and it seems to be steady and sticking. So congratulations on that. But search, Bing is clearly, I think everyone agrees, Bing's a good step forward. I think people who thought they'd test it out, a lot of them are sticking. But looking forward 5 years from now, search innovation over the last, say, 10 years has been somewhat interesting. But will the next 10 years of search innovation be more interesting than the last 10 years?
Let me say something dramatic.
Sure.
I think search had 5 years of great innovation, and the last 5 years has not been a particularly innovative time frame. I think the first 5 years there was innovation in business model, there was innovation in approach, give credit to competition. The last 5 years there's been some, quote, innovation, which is really things like digitizing maps and books or whatever the case may be, adding a larger content base to the corpus of information. But in some senses, the UI, the approach, the algorithms have changed less in the last 5 years than more. So I think if you look out the next 10 years, we're going to see more innovation in search. And, of course, that'll be best served by good competition in the market. And I think, at this stage, hopefully with government approval of our deal with Yahoo, the good competition better come from us. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I don't think we'll see some of that innovation. But whether it's natural language, visualization, change in the UI, change in the business model on search is making life tough for other content providers, makes life tough for some of the merchants. Yeah. We're not an incumbent. We can play with user interface. We can play with business models. We can do some things that maybe the incumbent can't do. Yeah. And the incumbent does some things pretty well too, and we're going to have to hustle to catch up. And we have a lot of years of tuning those relevance algorithms, and we got a lot of work to do.
So you talk about UI, and it seems like sometimes people talk about search problems as first of all the search engine understanding the query. And I think that's where you're talking about UI.
Yeah. That's where I talk about natural language.
Right.
Actually, UI, I'll talk about the presentation of the results.
It's literally the sort of the visual presentation.
Yeah, and I think it matters actually. Search isn't unlike every other application. The way you present things actually does matter.
What will your market share be in 10 years on search?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, making forecasts is sort of not a sane practice.
No.
A lot more than we have today.
It'd be great for me if you answered, but the Zune HD, a hit. Seems to be a great device. Still haven't had to have my hands on one. Do you have one on you right now?
I don't actually.
It seems like a lot of people really like the Zune HD. It's selling out, etc. When you look at the Zune and the Xbox, you seem to be more than capable of creating successful end consumer, devices that are hardware based, tied to services. When do we get our Microsoft phone? I know you guys keep saying we will not build a Microsoft branded phone.
Well, let me ask you a question.
But
I'm going to answer a question with a question.
Yeah.
Which is to say, look, let's just break hardware devices into two broad categories. Really high volume and more niche.
Okay.
And I'll call anything that's under about $50 million a year niche.
Okay.
And I'll call anything that's north of $300 million a year non-niche. PCs are not niche devices. Part of the reason I think they're non-niche devices is multiple people can manufacture them. They all interoperate. They work together, etc. TVs are not niche. There's more than well over 300 million of those sold a year. They interoperate in that case mostly based on standards, but with some innovation. Phones are not niche. The categories where I think a single player can control a large percentage of the volume are the smaller categories. What does Apple sell every year of iPods? 30 million order magnitude, something like that. What's the whole video game market is maybe 30 or 40 million units a year. But when you get these categories that are 300 million, 500 million, a billion, billion five a year, the truth of the matter is you're going to want multiple points of manufacture with a lot of innovation around it, whether it's for supply chain, for geographic diversity. And our basic play with our software is to try to be super high volume. So I think you can have an Apple in the phone business or a RIM, and they can do very well. But when 1.3 billion phones a year are all smart, the software that's going to be most popular in those phones is going to be software that's sold by somebody who doesn't make their own phone. Sure. And we don't want to cross the chasm in the short run and lose the war in the long run, and that's why we think the software play is the right play for us for high volume, even though some of the guys who are in the market today with vertically oriented solutions may do just fine.
You just brought interactive supercomputing a couple of days ago now. Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, one of the big pushes for us, we're in the server business. If you look at all the things people do with servers today, we do pretty well at most of them. The two areas in which we are least successful are web, where about half the web servers are Windows and half are Linux. We're competing and working at it. And the other one is high-performance computing, scientific supercomputing like applications. And the truth of the matter is, this is never about price. It's always about, have we done enough to solve problems compared to what you can do with the roll your own of Linux and open source. We took a look at it and said, no, we really want to be in the high-performance computing, quote, supercomputing space, and we're going to get after it. We're going to get after it with infrastructure. We're going to get after it with tools and applications. And as part of that strategy, we made the deal to acquire interactive supercomputing.
Okay, great. And you've bought 15 companies in fiscal 09, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, about right, yeah.
Is it stay steady, increase next year?
I'm going to guess we're going to wind up buying about 15 companies again next year. If you just sort of a guess, most of the things we buy are smaller. Yeah. We probably play someplace between 50 million and 300 or 400 million, and then occasionally we'll do something bigger. But most of what we're going to buy, I'm sure, will be in about the same order of magnitude. It'll probably mostly be companies that have 50, 100 to 200 employees, and really fit well with our technology platforms and our distribution.
Would Twitter fit well with your technology platforms and distribution?
Twitter would be great. I mean, not that we're talking about buying Twitter, and the Twitter guys want to stay independent. That's great. Making Twitter an asset to one of our businesses, that would be the real question for us. How does it fit? But obviously, they've got a lot of kind of buzz and interest at this stage, and but I think they're fiercely committed to staying independent, which I respect.
All right, great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.